Thank you very much. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis show. And on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And as I told you earlier, we are looking at the transformational, the budget with a transformational agenda and a brighter future. Is that exactly what it is? Well, as you may have heard, the opposition says no, that is incorrect. Also, we will be dealing with the Nayeli cocaine matter in the UK. And as I just told you a while ago, 3 persons, we are told, have been picked up in connection with that cocaine issue. All the 3 persons are naming one man as the one who is the person who sort of sent them, so to speak. It's a setting Alaji. We will get into all of that. Also, you may have heard already this morning the announcement that the NACOP board has been dissolved. The NACOP board has been dissolved. And the statement also says that further actions will be taken. Will those further actions include dismissal of the head of that institution? Or for that matter, as some are asking for, heads of all the institutions of security who are at the airport and watch this 12 kilos taking through the airport. Is that what is going to happen? And finally, we will also be asking Occupy Ghana. They are stumping our minds and hearts till when? Thank you very much indeed, and welcome to the show once again. And this show is brought to you by the kind sponsorship of Bank of Africa. As strong as a group and close as a partner, is brought to you by Star Assurance. That is your solid partner. MTN, welcome to the new world. Sasso mosquito repellent. Kumantuntum Preco. Oneplex 400. That is your one-stop dewormer for worms. Your one-stop dewormer for the entire family, I should say. Now, my guests are seated. Abdul Malik Kwekubaku Jr., the newly initiated occupier. Abdul Malik Kwekubaku Jr. is the editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, and he's a regular panelist on this show. Good morning, Abdul Malik, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, my brother.
Great. Also, we have Kessel Ato Forson. He's a Deputy Minister of Finance. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Also, Kweku Kwarteng is MP for Obuasi Central. He's a former spokesperson on finance for the New Patriotic Party. Obuasi West. I've always said Obuasi West. Thank you very much. Welcome to the show this morning.
Thank you.
We had you, is it last week or 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks.
Right. Great. Okay. Of course, we also have Fifi Kwete. He is also Minister of Agriculture and MP. Good morning and welcome to the show. MP for Ketu South.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the show. Right. Now, let's begin with the budget with a transformational agenda, and that promises a brighter future. What is the transformation about? What is the bright future hinged on? The minority will say, or have already said, that you are looking at the transformation, you're not thinking outside of the box, even though you claim that this is an innovative, budget. Most of you have been here saying you're thinking differently, but it doesn't appear you are thinking any differently. You're doing the old things, just taxing people a lot more. Well, before he even speaks, let's hear Mr. Setekwe, who read the budget in Parliament.
Term prospects for this country are bright, and that the transformational agenda of the NDC government is on course and will be directed beyond 2016. Mr. Speaker, in the near term, we will have access to additional oil and gas revenue. We will employ risk management tools and smoothing our forex flows and increase value in order that we can manage volatilities that frequently plague the economy. I wish to renew government commitment to the people of Ghana on behalf of His Excellency that the 2015 budget will stabilize the economy through measures that are beginning to bear fruits. We have not wavered in our commitment to provide a better Ghana for our people. A commitment that is bold and pragmatic to acknowledge challenges when they occur. Mr. Speaker, above all, we believe that this budget offers another opportunity for us to work together to achieve the goals of promising medium-term opportunities for all. Just as the prudent foresight it exhibited in taking the nation into the crude oil era, the NDC government is poised to first propose amendments to enhance effective implementation of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act to harness our oil resources for savings, stabilization, and development. We propose the imposition of a special petroleum tax equivalent to 17 points as part of the rationalization of the VAT and excise regimes. Ghana ranked 67 out of a total of 189 countries in the 2014 Global Ease of Doing Business report. It is our goal to improve this record in relation to port management. Mr. Speaker, with regards to railways, government would undertake front-end engineering design of the railway network, in particular for the Western and Eastern railway lines. President Mahama's pledge to construct additional 200 secondary schools by 2016 is also very well on course. Cabinet has approved the draft bill for the public university to be sited in the Eastern region, in line with our pledge to establish at least one public university in each of the 10 regions. It is gladdening to note that this particular session of Parliament will be considering the Eastern Region University Bill. Government continues to deliver on the healthcare needs of our people.
Right, so you just heard the Finance and Economic Planning Minister, Seth Terkper, reading the budgets and the economic policy, the budget statement and the economic policy for 2016. And the Deputy Finance Minister, Mr. Forsing, I had asked you earlier that you had been promising innovation, and even in the budget you hear words like innovation, and we have heard a number of you consistently use the words or say that you're doing things differently. But your critics say you're not doing anything differently. You are stuck to the old traditional means of, taxing people to govern, and that's not the best way. What is transformational about the budget, and what's the future in it that you call bright future?
Thank you very much. Let me first of all say a very good morning to those listening us and those viewing us this morning. And let me say that yes, I think this is a very bold budget. This is a budget that seeks to at least address the short-term challenges that we confront as a country, and obviously to confront the unsustainable path that as a country we are going on at present. In doing that, the Finance Minister looked at a number of scenarios, and then obviously projected to raise revenue up to 33 billion, representing 24% of GDP, and then projected to spend 41.4 billion, representing 30.5% of GDP, giving us 6.5% of budget deficit. It's also important that we understand that out of the 6.5% of budget deficit is on commitment basis. 1.2% of that, representing 1.6 billion Ghana cedis, is going to be used to obviously clear arrests. So the budget deficit in itself on cash basis represents 5.3%. Judging from where we're coming from, 9.5% deficit from 2014 to 5.3% deficit on cash basis in 2015, I believe that is bold enough. That shows the commitment of government to obviously look at the fiscal consolidation and then to address the unsustainable path that we're going. We've always talked about debt going up. We've always talked about the fact that the deficit is so high. If you do not prepare a budget that seeks to stabilize the economy, you cannot obviously achieve the transformation agenda. And that is why the budget team is very simple. It said securing the transformation agenda. I mean, we are trying as much as possible to project measures that will indeed propel the country into the medium-term prospect that we all have.
Okay. To put in a more proper perspective, the theme for the budget is transformational agenda, securing the bright medium-term prospects of the economy.
Correct.
You begin by saying this budget addresses the short-term challenges. Walk us through some of them, or the key aspects of the short-term challenges that this budget addresses.
Thank you. One of the short-term challenges that we're talking about is the budget deficit is very high. Obviously, it's not easy to just cut them because some of the expenditure lines are very structural, and you cannot just cut them. You have to look at how to address them through revenue mobilization to address it. In doing that, the finance minister obviously look at certain tax measures and expenditure measures whereby we can obviously bring it down. One, from the revenue side, he proposed to Parliament that he's going to extend the National Fiscal Stabilization Levy. Two, he said that we have another tax measure called the special petroleum tax. And what he said is that the special petroleum tax is going to operate around the lines of Act 870, which is the VAT. And then obviously we looked at the simulation, we do the modeling and look at the impact on the export price. It reflected 3%, but we did not only impose the tax, but we looked at the entire price build-up of the petroleum prices, eliminate some of the price lines, and then that resulted in 3% increase. He did not actually talk about only these two, but he talked about other compliance measures, which will indeed bring on board additional revenue, eliminating the VRPO, obviously looking at the other compliance measures that will bring more of tax efficiency and tax effectiveness by raking in more revenue. Tax revenue as a percentage of GDP, we have proposed 18% of GDP, moving from about 16% of GDP to 18%. That is quite high. We are looking at it that in the medium term, we want to achieve at least 20% of GDP. That is exactly what our peers are doing. We are way behind our peers. We feel that that is the way to go.
I see. Now, what for you could be, say, the single most important long-term challenge that you think this budget, confronts? As you say, you are addressing the short-term challenges and you are confronting the long-term ones.
We have always said that we concede that the debt as a percentage of GDP is really going high. It's going up, and then obviously you have to look at debt management and equity management strategies that will indeed ensure that the debt to GDP will not get to a level that is unsustainable. But obviously it starts from the fiscal deficit from day one. If you prepare a budget and the budget deficit is, say, 10%, then you're going to add to your debt. I've heard that argument. People are saying that they are not seeing items that we use the budget for, or the debt for. But I've always challenged that. Indeed, we prepare a budget statement. We propose that we are going to raise revenue of 33 billion, and then obviously spend 41.4 billion. The difference is going to finance from debt, and that is going to increase your debt in any way. So all of us know from day one that debt is going to go up by that margin if we implement the budget. What this budget seeks to do is to propose additional equity management and debt management strategies. The finance minister have always said that Ghana is a country that is very blessed, but unfortunately, some of our SOEs have been very complacent. Remember, in the past, we built the Akosombo Dam, we built the Tama Harbour, obviously from debt, but in the end, it paid for itself. So what he's saying is that he's going to extend the escrow arrangement, he's going to extend the on-lending arrangement that will compel our SOEs to pay for some of the debt that the government collect and give it to them, so that in the end, the taxpayer will not be paying for it. I believe this is something that secures the future this is something that secures the long-term bright future of this country. And that is one thing that all of us should accept.
I see. Interesting. Now, Mr. Kwarteng, tell me, if this is not bright about a lot of things, let's first of all look at some of the successes that have been achieved. Completion of the migration of almost all public sector workers on the central payroll to the single spine salary structure. After decades of failed attempts, they have done this. He speaks about clearing of all outstanding, arrears in respect of that, which was to the tune of about 3 billion Ghana cedis. That started to accumulate from the beginning of the program in 2010. Also, they have virtually eliminated the specter of long queues for fuel, as well as the huge budget overruns of about 339 million Ghana cedis in 2012 and 135 million in 2013. That resulted from past failures to adjust prices through the automatic adjustment pricing formula. And maybe just look at one more. An improvement in the revenue estimation processes of the production and sale of crude oil, thus eliminating another of the major causes of the budget overrun of about 384 million. What do you say about that?
Yeah, thank you. So, in spite of all these successes, why can't we pay statutory funds? The money we have collected in the name of National Health Insurance levy that we're supposed to pay into the fund, why can't we pay the money if we have all these successes?
But do you acknowledge these successes?
I'm questioning these successes, whether they really connect with the real problems we have. First, good morning to our viewers and our listeners. My special greetings to the people in my constituency. I have been accused of sometimes not acknowledging them when I'm here. I'm grateful for bringing me here. To begin with, in discussing the budget, we ought to first ask, what economic problem right now is the budget seeking to address? Beginning from 2012, we have been battling with a deficit that appears not to want to go away. What is a deficit? Every year, government plans how much money it could get, and then it also decides what expenditures it wants to make. At the close of the year, government will look at the expenditures made and the money that came in, the difference. So a deficit is expenditures for which we have no money. Now, in 2012, we registered the highest deficit we had ever known. And then 2013, we battled with it. Somehow, we were not quite successful. 2014, it doesn't appear as though the problem has gone away. What does it mean for ordinary people? What it means is that the central bank comes in to print money to finance government expenditure. Not the entire deficit, but if you look at the figures, the central bank, the figures of central bank financing we're having, it is far, far bigger, and the figures are here, we could visit them, than the law allows. So the central bank is actually breaking the law. But when the central bank prints money, in ordinary man's language, they print money to finance these over expenditures. It dilutes our currency, so the cedi begins to fall. And that is why we saw the cedi falling the way it did. Thankfully, we appear to have some stability because we have gone to borrow foreign exchange. So for now, the cedi is resting. At the time we are supposed to repay back these foreign dollar-denominated loans, the pressure, unless we do something different, the pressure will come back and we will see the difficulty of the cedi again. Then when your money gets diluted like that, inflation goes up. The prices of items begin to go up very quickly. Then, of course, because government itself has been overspending and its finances are in trouble, the cedi is depreciating, inflation is going up, government says, I'm running to the IMF for help. So government goes to the IMF. IMF will give you balance of payment support. That is to say, they give you foreign exchange that will help you to hold your cedi. But that holding of your cedi is not sustainable unless the gap between your expenditure and your income is corrected. So the IMF will impose conditionalities on you. So as the Deputy Minister for Finance, not Ms. Monacote, said, yes, you see an attempt in this budget to respond to the requirements of the IMF. And so what has government's solution to this problem be apart from going to the IMF? Government said the way I'm going to deal with this problem is that I will tax more. I'll tax the people more so that the gap between my expenditures and my income would narrow, and then the problem would be solving. And so what taxes do we see? Special petroleum tax. I've never heard of this tax before. For the first time, it has been slapped in this country. Special petroleum tax. We have petroleum tax in there already. We have all the levies. We have everything in there. We are now putting this additional tax, special petroleum tax. And it is important, quickly, that I point out respectfully a very disingenuous way of explaining this tax, that in the end it amounts to 3%. It doesn't. We all know that crude oil prices have gone down. But for this tax, we probably should be paying about 11 cedis. Yesterday I tried to do the calculation, about 11 cedis per gallon for premium. Now, we slap this tax, and it passes the level at which we are now and imposes an additional margin. And then government says, oh, this tax only adds to the existing level, price level, by 3%, 2%. Look, if crude oil prices begin...
But that's factual. How much it adds to the existing level. 3%, that's factual, isn't it?
What I'm explaining is that really we should have been paying something in the neighborhood of 11%.
Admitted.
Sure. So the tax, the impact of the tax is what it has done to the 11 Ghana cedis per gallon we should have been paying. That is the impact of the tax. It has brought it up to somewhere 16. That is not 3%. The 3% can be quoted because even though most countries in the citizens of most countries in the world were beginning to enjoy lower fuel prices because crude oil prices had gone down, Ghana, we didn't. And then we imposed this tax. It comes to 3%. We are calling it 3%. Look, if crude oil prices begin to go up, that is when we will feel the full impact of this tax, because then we will come back to the real levels, and then the full impact of the 17.5% on what they call ex-depot price will have its impact, and then we'll begin to feel it. So let's be clear with Ghanaians that, look, this tax, the impact of this tax is really big, but thank God now crude oil prices are down, so you're not feeling it that much. Please remember that if crude oil prices go up, you will feel the full impact of this tax so that Ghanaians can prepare. You don't wait for the problem to get there and then you begin to cook up other stories to explain what would have happened. But that is just one of the solutions government wants to use to solve this problem. I'll explain why it's not a solution really. Then those VAT on financial services that were imposed, and then the public made some noise about, government went back and forth and eventually said, I have withdrawn them. Government came back to Parliament to say, I've changed my mind, I'll now impose them. And then you have the National Stabilization Levy. It was a sunset provision. That is to say, you give it a time frame that after this time, I will stop. And at the time, what we were told was that government's finances were tight. So they needed to impose this National Stabilization Levy to correct it, and that it will be for a short period. By the end of 2014, we should have it end. Again, government came to Parliament and said, I want to have changed my mind. I would collect it for a much longer time. And then withholding tax for directors has been increased. These are the major tax measures imposed in this budget as a solution to the over-expenditures we have been seeing on the side of government. Now, let's remember that these taxes come on the back of other taxes that were imposed in the past. Several condom tire, a whole lot of taxes. Why is this a wrong solution? It's a wrong solution because in the last 6 years, the problems of this economy has not been inflows. It's not as though somehow inflows are not coming. Since 2011, for the first time in the history of this country, this government enjoyed oil proceeds in large commercial quantities. In 2011, we had $444 million US dollars. In 2012, $541 million US dollars. In 2013, we have $847 million. As of today, I mean the third quarter of 2014, we've had $780 million US dollars. A total of about $2.6 billion US dollars. Money that was not available to previous administrations. This government has it. Inflow. If you convert it to cedi now, you're looking at something in the neighborhood of about 8.4 billion Ghana cedis. Borrowed money. This government inherited national debt of 9.5 billion, and I'm referring to paragraph 94 of the 2009 NDC budget statement. 9.5 billion Ghana cedis. Now, the government came to Parliament and told us that our debt has hit 70 billion Ghana cedis. 70 billion, from 9.5 billion to 70 billion in the space of less than 6 years. So I'm making all these points to explain why I think government's problem has not been influenced. And then commodity prices. In the last 6 years, overall, this government has enjoyed quite good levels of the prices for the commodities we export, so that at some point we're even beginning to think of a windfall taxation on the miners, because gold prices were doing so well that we thought we should have a part of it. So if the problem has not been influenced, what has been the problem? Let's look critically at the expenditures giving rise to the deficit, which is leading us into all the problems. You see, this has been overflowed, but it is the problem. Inside that government expenditure, that deficit, sit the GIDA expenditures.
Okay.
I don't know how I will put it.
Now, that's where I would like you to hold on for me. We'll return so that you continue from where you're stopping. Now, Fifi, look, he says, no, hold on. What I do is that, even though I allow you the time, I'm using time. But sometimes when I discover that you're making a presentation that when it is cut, it's so unfair to you, I allow you to continue. So that's what I've done for you right now. But I want you to hold on briefly. Now, Fifi, look, what Mr. Kwating is saying, many have said, that look, all the nice things, that lofty ideas that you have put in the budget, good. But first of all, who brought us where we are? And from his language, it boils down to sheer waste on the part of the government. That's why we are where we are. And so it is unfair to begin to impose a number of taxes on the people as a way out of the situation. I don't know how you respond to that, looking into the budgets particularly, but I need to say that you are saying NDC budget. I suspect that you don't want to be saying NDC budget is the budget of the government.
Because I wanted the figure was coming from the ruling government. That's what I'm sorry. I really don't like.
And then you also referred to the condom tax. Is it still on?
It's still on.
Oh, it was removed, I thought.
It's not like condom tax.
It was one of those sounds. Yeah, exactly. But I was just saying the intervention that.
Okay, so that's over. That's over. Thank you very much. Now, Fifi, let's hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and very good morning to all your many viewers and your listeners as well. I think really the narrative must begin to change, and Kweku Kwati and myself have basically have the same position. That's why I'm a little disappointed that apparently my brother is doing a bit of a retrogression, going back to the typical things that have brought us to where we are. You see, we have a nation to construct. We have also politicking to do. My own view is that we've done a bit of this back and forth politicking for 20 long years. And it's important after 20 years to have a pause and to say, listen, the politics must continue, all right? But because the economy is so important, many times we need to subside some of that politicking that is causing the economic difficulties. Now, I've said on this platform and on many other platforms again and again that a lot of the reasons why this country have not been able to make the phenomenal progress that we should have made as an economic, as a nation in terms of economy, is largely because of what I call the petty politicking. The petty politicking, which I would say really started with these, unfortunately our friends from the MPP, they started it, back in somewhere in 1996. Basically even in opposition between 93 to 96, with this whole thing that everything in this country must be done in a manner in which it should just be affordable. Regardless of what it is, it must be affordable. Listen, that is a bedrock to disaster. Every government must clearly make an effort to be able to create conditions that will alleviate the conditions of its people. But when you set into motion a process by which the only barometer, the only benchmark that you can judge economic transformation is the fact that things are constantly made cheap or things are made constantly affordable, you are in trouble. Because there are things that have prices, and you simply can't take them lower than those prices. Now, what makes it even more critical is the fact that, see, that's what I call deleterious philosophy. Brings with it another one which clearly says that, listen, we want the development, but we are not ready to pay for that development. So it becomes an issue of, I want to eat the cake, but I also want to have it. You cannot make progress unless you are ready to make the contributions that will bring the progress. The only way a country can make development is, one, by being ready to make contribution through taxation, or two, by being ready to borrow.
Do you mind if I ask you to, move on from the exhortation?
I'm not. I'm building my point.
Some will challenge you strongly that you should move away from this petty politicking and all of that, because you should be the last person to be heard talking about some of these things. Yes.
I listened carefully when the other two people were talking. Didn't interfere.
I'm
hoping you don't interfere me. Just allow me to build my point. Whenever I come here, you do this, and I always stop you. So please don't worry. Start it again today.
As for interfering, I'll do when I find it necessary.
You did not stop the others. Allow me to build my point. The point I'm making is simple, and this is not the first time I'm making it on this platform. So I don't even know why you're making appear as if today is the first time I'm saying this.
I'm asking you to move away from the exhortation and go to the subject.
I'm building my point. I decide how I build my point. You don't decide it for me, Samson. So I'm building my point.
I'm the moderator of this show.
No, but you don't decide how I speak.
If you are veering off, I'm not veering off.
I'm building my point.
Okay, go on.
And the point I'm building is simple. Right. That a nation must make progress, and that progress must be made by building foundation. And those foundations must be two. Readiness, that if you want to build, you need to make that contribution. That contribution must come in terms of readiness to pay taxation. Two, you also must appreciate that if you want to have the fast development that you're looking for, you clearly must be prepared to have some amount of debt. No country, whether it's a Brazil that has made a leap, or whether it is China, or whether it's Korea, made it without these basic foundations. Of course, as we push for how we are going to get money, we also, as a country, must make a commitment towards making sure we have value for money, meaning greater efficiency in the management of the finances that are coming. But fundamentally, we must agree on that. Now, what is this budget seeking to do? This budget clearly is helping us to confirm the kind of foundations that we need in order to establish the brighter future. Now, this country's bright future, it has never been in doubt. Okay, particularly in the last few years, not at all in doubt. And that clearly is corroborated by the fact that the international community continues to have such massive confidence in Ghana. Listen, how many countries who have had the kind of difficulty we've had, for example, with budget deficit over the last 2 years, and still be able to command the kind of interest that the global community continues to put in Ghana? It tells you that the economy has sound medium to long-term prospects. And that is why the confidence is high. And why? Because clearly they know that these problems that we have are basically short-term difficulties. And what brought them about? It again was brought about because of the politicking. And what was that politicking? Simple. After the clear, good performances that we had between 2009, where we had problems, then again pick it up from 2010, 2011. Of course, as elections approached in 2012, the pressure built up. A number of things were done. Now, those things that were done, people tend to believe that they were things that were like money that were given now for election purposes. No. They were basically things that were done responding to the need to cushion a country. cushion a country by way of salaries that were paid to public sector workers, cushion a country by way of subsidies that were as it were, brought in to cushion the country again, both in petroleum and also in utilities. Now, those were clearly about 90% of the reasons why this country went into a difficulty, into a tailspin. Now, it is important for us to be able to, as it were, reconsolidate ourselves. How do we do that? One, we need to slow down a lot of that. So, for example, if you see this budget, you see an attempt being made once again to bring public sector wage back into the places it ought to be. And the IMF clearly has corroborated that and also seen that this is the way to go. Now, this signals also that we are not just talking about moving forward, we are also trying to let the country appreciate that, listen, we need to make sacrifices together. If we want to be able to build together, public sector workers clearly need to make a sacrifice. Private sector workers need to make sacrifice. Informal sector workers need to make a sacrifice because that's the only way we can build the future we want to build. So that's along public sector wage. The same thing that has been done in terms of making sure we reduce to the barest minimum subsidies. Reduce them to the barest minimum. It means, therefore, that people have to pay what you call real prices. Because if it is that we want more and more subsidy, what it is then is that we are ready to forsake some of the development. So you either want the development or you want some of that money to be taken away from development in order to cushion you by way of subsidies. And as a country, we all have agreed that we want to move forward, we want to build this country, we want to transform it. So therefore it means you must reduce subsidies in order to push for development. Now, the thing also to appreciate is this. Kweku Kwatin asked whether if this budget is as good as we claim, or if the economy has the kind of bright future, how come we are not able to pay statutory payment and so on? I mean, this is a no-brainer. I mean, it's a straightforward analysis. You have an envelope.
He says the problem is not inflows.
No, you know, I'm building my point. The point I'm making, he said, is that if it is that the budget is as strong or as positive as we claim it is, how come we are unable to still honor arrears, I mean, statutory payment and so on? And I'm saying that it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. It's a very straightforward issue. You can appreciate that. It's simple. If you have one envelope, and that envelope is supposed to cater for everything. Now, by that envelope, by the time you finish paying workers, by the time you honor your debt payment, you're looking at 100% of that envelope gone. It's simply straightforward that you will not be able to have any more resources to pay for certain things.
You're speaking about internally generated funds and using same to pay wages and compensation. Mm-hmm. You're not talking about all other sources of funding that comes into the country.
No, I'm talking about money that you are generating through taxation. Mm-hmm. That's your first call.
That's what I'm saying.
And that first call, mm-hmm, by the time you finish paying your workers wages and salaries, and by the time you pay your interest payment, 70% about 100% of it is gone. So naturally, what do? You have to resort to borrowing. And resorting to borrowing means you have to, for example, make sure your asset and investment are catered for. You also have to cater for public administration. You have to pay goods and services. So it's not rocket science to understand why there will be arrears. Any government that faces that situation would definitely have arrears. MPP, I mean, how much arrears did you leave at in 2008? You want me to tell you? I mean, it was massive arrears. You did not even have the kind of wage envelope that NDC had to deal with between 2012 up to today. But you left huge arrears at the close of 2008. So it tells you that it's not simply a simple issue of saying that, oh, you have arrears. You have arrears. Ours makes sense because we are dealing with a massive public sector wage envelope. And that clearly puts real constraint as far as the economy is concerned. But the important thing about this budget is the fact that we now are saying, listen, we need to boldly confront the issues. And to confront the issue also means we need to be able to address issues of taxation. There's nothing wrong with taxation. There's nothing wrong. No country in this world has developed without taxation. And the issue about debt as well. You see, once and for all, we need to basically come to terms with the reality. Back in the late 50s and the early 60s, when Kwame Nkrumah started that it were borrowing to be able to build infrastructure, the same people were shouting about debt and debt and debt. I'm saying, don't call it debt, call it investment, because that's what it is. These are precious investment for the transformation of a country. Akosombo Dam was not debt, it was investment. That's why this country has had the kind of what you call energy capacity over all these years. And now it's time for us to be able to replenish that. increase what you call the generation capacity if we want to make the leapfrogging into the next level. If they want to build what you call the road infrastructure, you clearly need to be able to go for that. But this debt is investment. So to simply go into this, what I call antiquated mentality of shouting debt, 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 as if you don't understand that these are debts that are preciously needed for investment, for me, it's absolutely, it's Stone Age behavior. It must stop. Let's move forward, appreciating that Brazil did not go through the transformation without clearly resorting to debt. Brazil did not go through that transition without resorting to taxation. So going forward, taxation and debt must be appreciated from a bigger perspective. If there are concerns that possibly it can be used better, more efficiently used, I understand that, and that's a discussion we can have. But to simply go on this ancient behavior of, anything tax is wrong, anything debt is wrong, must stop. Okay. We've done that for 20 years.
Thank you.
It's enough.
Thank you. Kweku, the point Fifi makes, that, look, if we're asking for our bread to be buttered, we certainly would need to make a little sacrifice to have it. We can't eat our cake and have it at the same time. But the accusation the government faces is that they are not using any, different innovative ways. I don't know what's your reaction to as far as the budget is concerned in this regard.
Well, look, the last time I checked, there's been no budget in this country's economic history, and I'm beginning from 1957, when we became an independent state, that has not had both positives and negatives in terms of people's reaction. It's always a mixed reaction, mixed feelings out there, and it depends on who or which interest group is reacting. Because there are various groups with various interests. You may check what industry is thinking, you may check what the farmers are also thinking, you may find out what people in the educational sector are thinking. So it's never really a situation, there's never really a situation where all of us agree that this is a good budget. That's the first thing. It's never happened, unless somebody can give you an example otherwise. Of course, those days when we didn't have a constitutional arrangement, so that you didn't have a parliament and civil society and active media, budgets are just put out there and it runs. Same with this budget. There are positives. I've been reading. The area where if you go to support for local industries, the exemptions and the reduction in VAT and tax, those things for pharmaceuticals, locally produced pharmaceuticals, I think are positive things. Some of us had been advocating for such things before, and it's been done. So I don't see why you cannot say that's a positive. The exercise books, local printers. I'm sure they will be happy with those things. They may need more support, but they would not push or reject these ones that have been put out there. So that's the kind of thing. But overall, there are also certain areas. For instance, I like the idea of the GNPC. I'm sure we'll come to those things. GNPC, Ghana Gas being, GNPC absorbing Ghana Gas. I like the idea, to be honest with you. But then there are also...
Why is it that you like it?
I think that consolidation would promote efficiency, and more focused approach in that sector. I believe so, So even though I'm not technically competent to interrogate all the details, but I think instinctively, I believe that's a better approach.
And government took advantage of that budget to also state categorically that the loan that GNPC was going for is not for government.
But that's where my problem is. That's part of the highlights that I want to deal with. I'm sure we'll get to that detail.
Please go ahead.
Okay, I can deal with that.
Yes, you can.
I have a problem. I've been doing some search, and I've come to last week, we had a GNPC official here. He was quite articulate, let me be honest with you, and appeared well informed. Yes, I praised him actually when I met him outside. But I've been going through some documents. We were told that, first of all, they sought the advice of the AG after the recommendation of the Energy Ministry and the approval of the Finance Ministry. We raised the constitutionality matters here. I still stand by the fact that apparently they violated the Constitution. But let's go to the advice that they claim they got from the AG. This is a letter dated June 19, 2014. June 9, 2014. It's request for legal opinion and GMPC prepayment facility. The paragraph 2 reads, in order to come to a firm legal conclusion on this issue, we review the existing law relating to the operations of GMPC, including in particular the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation Law 1984, PNDC Law 64, the Petroleum Exploration and Production Law 1984, PNDC Law 84, the Petroleum Revenue Management Act 2011, Act 815, as well as the constitutional provisions touching on the public finances of Ghana. We note that besides the letter under reference requesting for our opinion, no other documents were made available to this office relating to the transaction. If any other document on the proposed transaction exists, we have not had the benefit of reviewing such document and do not purport to render this opinion on or in relation to such a document. In spite of this, the Attorney General, in this case signed by the Deputy Attorney General, proceeds to give them the green light and tells them that they do not need parliamentary approval to proceed with this thing. Now, one of the documents that apparently was not before the AG, which I have also intercepted, is a letter from GMPC dated 9th October 2014 to the lenders, that is the Trafigura Limited. And this paragraph also I find interesting. The key terms of your proposals are summarized as follows. Paragraph 1, it says 5.5-year commercial offtake contract under which the crude oil entitlement of the Republic of Ghana, did you hear me? The crude oil entitlement of the Republic of Ghana from the Jubilee and possibly other offshore oil and gas fields shall be delivered to Trafigura per an agreed delivery schedule. The commercial contract would extend until all amounts due under the prepayment facility have been reimbursed. I thought we were told that this whole thing, the guarantee, was relative to the GMPC's share.
Share, correct.
What I've read here doesn't go beyond GMPC's share. That 30% of the carried and participatory equity interest. And that is just that part. GMPC has 30% of that one, not the overall pool. That is, I think, something people should note. Now, this thing that is one of the transaction documents between GMPC and the lender, which obviously was not before the AG, talks about crude oil entitlement of the Republic of Ghana from the Jubilee and possibly other offshore oil and gas fields. Somebody is not telling us the whole truth.
Could it be that this is what the GMPC explains as their share?
No, but they'll be wrong. If that's what they are explaining as their share, they'll be wrong. The law doesn't support it. And you can check. They are 30%. I have a chart here. The petroleum revenue due to the Republic. Theirs comes from the receipts from carried interest and GMPC equity participation. It's 30% of that. But in any case, whatever it is, this document, which is one of the documents driving the transaction, talks about the crude oil entitlement. That's what you are telling your lender. Now it appears the finance ministry, in presenting this budget, has given it the stamp of approval. Is seeking parliament to approve. I'm not too sure that it's the same way of seeking parliamentary approval for this, even though the budget is going to be approved. Or has it been, you know?
So the budget will be debated,
and approved. I don't know the implication. You are the lawyers. Whether that would mean, in effect, that that loan transaction itself has been approved by Parliament. I'm not too sure about that. But the point is that I'm beginning to think that some integrity issues must be raised relative to this. Look, I found other documents emanating from GNPC that I find quite potentially explosive. As we speak, they are about to get a 350 million. The bridge loan is just around the corner. It looks as if GNPC is in some sort of deal with the lender, telling them of a certain set of amendments that are going to be made to the GNPC Act.
As suggested by the Attorney General's reply to their request for legal advice. Is that not the case?
But they have sent ahead to these people the proposals, the proposed amendments, which anticipates, which in my view creates the impression that somebody knows something is not being done right. We've already proceeded, but let's find a way, a backdoor way of doing certain amendments to the Act.
That's quite interesting. Kuku,
and it worries me that, you see, we are proceeding in this direction, behaving as if there is nothing absolutely wrong with what the GNPC has been allowed to do, and that worries me.
So you feel that the finance minister was not being, sincere to Ghanaians when he suggested in Parliament, in the budget statement, categorically that this is not the government of Ghana loan, but GNPC
Yeah, this
loan?
is what he says. He says, Mr. Speaker, I would like to emphasize that this loan is a GNPC loan and not a central government loan. As for the other things, there's nothing wrong. What they are going to use the loan for, and in fact, if you look at the other documents they sent to the lender, they are saying it's for general corporate purposes. Even there's something tricky about it.
Thank you very much. You're still here on Newsfile. This is the most authoritative news analysis show, and it's brought to you by the kind sponsorship of Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. Star Assurance, that is your solid partner. MTN, welcome to the new world. Sasso insecticide, mosquito repellent, Kumuntuntum Prepo, Wemplex 400, that is your one-stop dewormer for the family. And Tonic Ghana continues with a test drive that is offered you. So just place a call to Tonic Ghana on 0501 338 072. That's 0501 338 072 for a test drive. And Tonic Ghana, they are setting the standards, and when you call, you will get to be able to drive their alluring Chryslers, they are luxury Jeeps that are very classy. They are the latest in town. And also you get to also drive the 8-speed automatic Eco Diesel Grand Cherokee, which is another first in Ghana. And also they have an array of sexy Jeep Compass, rugged Wrangler, and the incredible SRT just for your taste. So call Tonic Ghana and take a ride. Bank of Africa, they want to assure you that if you do contact them on 0244338226, that's 0244338226, you will get a product that is tailored to both your personal and your corporate banking needs. Bank of Africa, that is your, they are strong as a group and they are close as a partner. Now, I'm back to you, and the principle that Fifikwete speaks about, that, look, there's nothing wrong with taxation, there's nothing wrong with borrowing. We need the money and we should see it as an investment. If we can't make any sacrifices, we shouldn't be looking for any, luxury. That's the point, isn't it?
It is. Thank you very much. Even before I come to where the question you are asking, I want to quickly say something about what Kweku just talked about. Maybe Kweku has intercepted some document, but I can confirm to you that that document does not represent the contract signed between GNPC and Trafigura. That document does not represent the contract. Indeed,
I didn't purport to say that.
No, I'm trying to say that it's not a contract. It's not the contract because, one, this obviously before a contract is signed, there are communication back and forth. And this can be some of the communication. I know for a fact that the contract between GNPC and Trafigura relate to only the GMPC share, but not the government of Ghana entire share of the Jubilee crude.
Yeah. So what was the purpose of this letter?
No, so that is exactly what I'm trying to say. There can be letters back and forth from the beginning through the negotiation period, but what we can use for argument purposes can only be the contract that is signed between the two.
The final contract.
And we should always refer to the contract. Maybe we should find out, we should see the contract and use the contract to make our argument.
This is 9th October 2014.
Well, but that is not the contract. This is not the
When
contract.
was the contract signed?
This is not the contract.
Yeah, when was it signed?
Regardless, this is not a contract, and that is what I want to say. So we should make argument with the contract.
How do you feel about the content of the letter from the AGs to GMPC on the request for legal advice?
But does that mean there is no other correspondence after? That is what we have to find out. This is the first letter from AG. We've not seen any letter from GMPC to AG as yet for us to draw a conclusion on it.
So it could be the case, it could well be the case that subsequently they were provided or furnished with these documents.
So we should wait till that time and get the entire document before we make a
This is speculative. Mine is factual, right here.
Well, what I'm talking about reference to the contract.
That's what it's
okay.
Yes.
Yours is tentative.
Yeah, but you see, I assume that
and he's talking
should be the
final
case.
contract.
when we are dealing with people who speak for government on such issues, I believe you must have the full complement.
No, but don't forget. I mean, he didn't come here really for
GMPC is in the budget.
Okay.
No. I mean, it came as a little subset.
Okay, don't worry.
It came here for macro.
So don't worry. We may get a little bit more about this GMPC matter, because as far as we are aware, there's actually supposed to be a suit that is heading to the courts to challenge this particular process. So can we continue to
Thank you. I was saying this because obviously we have people viewing us, people hearing us, and it's important we correct that impression before somebody picks something and sends it out.
It's a very instructive intervention, and I agree.
Let me say, I heard Kweku Kwatin making a number of points and talking about wastage in the system, where to cut, and obviously that you can use that to substitute revenue. But I'm asking him, Kweku, where is the wastage you're talking about? Is the whole wastage from the 12.3 billion compensation that we have projected, or is coming from the 2 billion goods and services that we have projected? Maybe it's coming from 9.6 billion.
He was about to mention
interest payment.
He was about to mention the areas where he refers to as the waste have occurred. You want him to do that first?
No,
just named Jida, then I stopped him.
I just want to ask him.
So that I
because clearly, we have projected to spend 7 billion from capital expenditure. Is that a waste? Is that something that he's trying to say that we should wait or postpone instead of us getting revenue from somewhere to fix our roads, to build the schools that we need, or to send us to hospitals? Is that what he's talking about? Is he telling me here that grant to government services, including the District Assembly Common Fund, the DACF, obviously GET Fund, and National Health Insurance of 7.4 billion should postpone? I don't know about that, so maybe he has to tell me more. But more specifically to what Honorable Fifi was talking about, it's important we understand that, yes, the borrowings that we make is for specific purposes. Like today, we are all talking about light issues and the fact that obviously fuel coming from Nigeria is posing a major challenge. 1 billion of the CDB facility today has given us the Ghana gas. 1 billion of the CDB facility has given us Ghana gas, of which we've been able to today tie in, and all things being equal, if successful process audit and risk issues are addressed, then we're going to have our own gas very soon, instead of us waiting on Nigeria to give us gas. I think that is investment. That is something that Honorable Fifi is talking about, and it's important we admit that. I agree that some of the debt or some of the debt line goes into consumption. But obviously you cannot run away from that. As long as you prepare a budget with a budget line, that goes into deficit. We are saying it's important we address that. And we will obviously address that. We've prepared a budget moving from a deficit of 9.6 billion or 9.6% of GDP all the way down to 6.5% of GDP. I believe that is something that we have to talk about. It's important, it's steep, it's strong, it shows our commitment to our fiscal consolidation measures that we are going through. And everybody has to maybe accept it.
What would you say to the businessman who is not interested in all these nice things you're talking about in respect of power generation? Because in the budget, there is an admission that the power situation has cost us a lot. And Mr. Tekwe says that the continued disruption in the supply of gas from the West African African gas pipe pool from August 2012 through August 2014 due to damages caused to the pipeline. This has had significant adverse effects on power supply, national output, foreign exchange reserves, and tax revenues. The businessman who gets up every day, or the local business person who is doing some small business by the wayside and who is depending on electricity and can't find electricity, these days it's just getting very worse. What they are asking is, so what are we waiting for? We'll continue to wait for the gas pipeline, and you're referring to since 2012. August, it's not been working.
Samson, the issue of DOMSO, the issue of the electricity problems we are facing, to me, basically relies on two major reasons. One is the generation, and one is the fuel. If you have a tank farm, for instance, if you have a power plant whereby you expect gas from another country to come in, and the gas is not forthcoming, and obviously you cannot rely on it, that gives you a challenge, a major challenge.
So you wait forever?
No, we are not saying we wait forever, and that is why we have spent $1 billion to put up our own Ghana gas. I can also confirm to you that Ghana government has been able to reach a deal on the ENI Sankofa on the 10th field. That is also going to bring on board additional gas. That, I believe, going forward will resolve the issue with fuel and attract more IPPs into the country. On the issue of generation, you are aware that the finance minister said as part of his budget speech that indeed the TICO extension program that is ongoing is 90% complete, and we hope that before the year end we are going to have additional 110 megawatts. He went further to say that the Pontama plant is going to give us additional 110 megawatts
my question
by
is that
first quarter.
People have heard this over and again. They're not interested in being told about them again. All they want to see is that their lights are working.
But it's a fact that by end December, we are going to have additional 110 megawatts. It is a fact that we understand that indeed today we've been able to tie in to the FPSO. In the past, we've not been able to tie in. There is progress. There is progress that we are going to have 110 megawatts by end December. There is progress that by end first quarter next year, we are going to have additional 110 megawatts from Pontama plant. That is a lot of progress. Together gives us 220 megawatts.
So all we need is patience.
I believe it's a fact. Building a power plant doesn't take a day. It takes time. It takes time. It's something that we should have been adding on over a period of time. Let's ask, in the last 10 years, how many megawatts have we been able to add on? We are on the way of adding more power plants.
Okay. Too bad the president sometime in the course of the year had cause to celebrate that the problem was over and that we were people of short memory and we didn't thank him for it. Now we're back and it is very terrible. But he's saying that he doesn't get your point when he says it boils down to wastage. Where have there been the wastages that you're talking about?
Well, thank you, Samson. Before I speak, let me respectfully make the point that I'm engaging to government officials. It's important that I have a little more time to put the points across.
What do you mean? We are four here. We all have our...
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
Leave that to me. Leave that to me. I know how to handle it.
So two government officials. Doesn't worry that I get a little more time.
No, why should we get more?
Because the two of you
the people is also here, so we share the time.
Okay, guys, you see, you don't really determine the time, so stop fighting over it.
This administration has been in office for 6 years. What Mr. Fifikwete is saying is that we have big expenditures, wages and others. The money we are getting, we are able to raise as a government is small. So we can't fulfill all the responsibilities. We can't send money to the district assembly as we should because the other expenditures take all the money. That is an admission of failure. It's an admission that government is not in a position to deal with all the problems.
Because they came to meet a single spine salary structure that you left behind that is eating all the money.
The percentage of wages, the percentage that wages makes of even local revenue has not changed. They should go and do the research. It has not changed. So this rhetoric about, of course, we recognize that you want to look at your wage bill and see if you can beat it down. It's an old problem. All governments have complained about it. But let's not give the impression that somehow this administration has been suffering some wage bill that other administrations have not suffered. That's not correct. But look, Fifi goes on to say that if we want comfortable levy, we must pay for it. Why? People pay national health insurance levy because they want good health. They want it to go into the National Health Insurance Fund. It goes to central government, government will not transmit it. And then you turn around and say, oh, if you want good health delivery, you must pay for it. Paying for it is paying their levies. And please, wherever those funds are, transfer them. First point.
Okay. Now hold on to the first point for me. Sorry. Very sorry about that interruption. Now, because of the GMPC matter that came up, we are going to speak to the GMPC and we'll find out a few other things. But even before we do that, let's speak to Nana Santibedetu, who is representing 3 persons who are filing a suit against the GMPC on this matter. Nana, good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning.
Right.
Thompson, how are you?
I'm good. Now,
Good.
Have you filed or you're yet to file this particular rate? And what exactly are you asking for?
Oh, well, thank you and good morning to your panelists and your listeners. I've been instructed by 3 parliamentarians who have an interest in this matter to bring a suit in court, which we will file on Monday morning, to resolve these matters, because I think there are some legal issues that need to be cleared up.
Sorry, who are these 3 persons?
Dr. Akotose, Dr. Matthew Kempe, and Honorable Samuel Atacha.
Okay, go on.
Now, one of the things that concerns me, and I think it concerns my clients, is that I know Kweku Baku is there, I know Kweku Kwating is there, I know my good friend Fifi Kwete is there, but there's another gentleman whose name I don't know. If you can help me, I'd rather address him properly.
The Deputy Finance Minister, Atu Forson.
Okay. Well, Mr. Forson, I think, sort of makes clear why the resolution by the court is important. Kweku Baku asked him a simple question. When was the GMPC Trafigura agreement signed? He's unwilling to say when. I think that is troublesome because, it sort of exemplifies this whole secrecy surrounding this transaction. There are 2 fundamental issues at stake, which I think concern my clients. The first is, of course, the one that everybody talks about, that the GMPC is borrowing money and that it ought to be approved by Parliament. But there's another, I think, even more important matter, which is that the Petroleum Revenue Management Act requires that all of the programs of GMPC are approved by Parliament in advance. Now, Parliament has already approved the 2014 program for GMPC and has made allocations and disbursements on that basis. This borrowing and the projects that ostensibly they're going to be used for have not been approved by Parliament. It would be a different matter if they were to be approved in this budget that's going to be discussed for implementation in 2015. That is not the case. Now, we have a situation where I think Kweku Baku was reading a letter that talked about the government of Ghana's share, GMPC share, and all of that. It's a critical point because if you look at the law, GMPC does not have a share until programs have been approved and funds disbursed to it. All of the carried and participating interests in petroleum projects in our country belong to the Republic. There is no doubt about that. The law talks about allocations to be made to a national oil company of up to 55% of the net proceeds from the carried and participating interest. A national oil company is not necessarily the GNPC. It turns out, however, that so far what we have as a national oil company is GNPC. But on the basis of the language of the law, GNPC cannot even say that it has an automatic share of any of the net proceeds from petroleum activities.
Okay.
Now, further on,
That's quite interesting.
Even if because it is the only national oil company to date, it can claim that based on the law, it can only mean it when we talk about allocations to a national oil company. It cannot say how much it is going to receive because Parliament actually makes these percentages or these allocations of percentages on a 3-year basis. It has made it, and it made it curiously. The one it has made now, which is at 30%, was reduced from 40% precisely because monies that were disbursed to GNPC in the past resulted in surpluses because they didn't use them. Okay. Now, the contract with Trafigura is supposed to be for a 5-year term, right? Now, it means that when GNPC's allocation comes up for review after the 3 years, whatever Parliament does, if this contract is subsisting, Parliament's hands are tied because it will have to then make disbursements to GNPC enough to cover the servicing and the repayment of the debt. Okay. I don't think anybody in Ghana has the right to unlawfully tie Parliament's hands in that manner. Okay. Now,
so Nana, sorry, but we're taking you very briefly, and what I want to know from you is that now, effectively, you are going to court to insist that GNPC cannot take the loan without recourse to Parliament, correct?
Yes, on 2 fronts. And the second front, which is also important, I believe, if you remember, Mr. Alex Mould suggested that the reason they do not need parliamentary approval is, one, because the GNPC law, the PNDC Law 64, gives them the right to borrow only on the recommendation of the Minister of Energy and Petroleum and the consent of the Minister of Finance. And secondly, that they have correspondence from the Attorney General or an opinion of the Attorney General which says that they can do so. Now, this is based on a Supreme Court case called Clonagan, in which Professor Databan discussed whether you could say that GNPC and government are the same, because normally statutory corporations can borrow without recourse to Parliament. But if it can be established that GNPC is borrowing merely as a front for government, then the alter ego doctrine would kick in, and all of the issues that have to do with government and Parliament would come into play.
We have looked at that case on this particular platform last week.
Let me make this point. There is correspondence, and I know Kweku probably has it. I don't know if he does, but there is correspondence clearly between GNPC and some of the banks, which suggested that they would be using the money to acquire Government of Ghana assets. There's also correspondence and documentation to show that Government of Ghana is to take a loan from GNPC. Now, it seems to me clearly that if you put everything together, where it cannot go into programs not approved by Parliament, it is merely a trustee of petroleum assets of the Republic, it is clear to me with all of this that this is merely a front. Okay. And therefore, parliamentary scrutiny is required on both levels.
Okay. Now, tell me, where are you going? High Court or Supreme Court?
Oh, Samson. Monday.
Where are you going? High Court or Supreme Court? I'm asking for a good reason.
Well, I'll be going to the High Court.
Right. Thank you very much. You'll be going to the High Court. Hold on briefly. I've got on the line Nana Ntoa, who is Manager Strategy and New Business at the GNPC. Nana, thank you very much for joining us. Hello, Nana Nto.
Yes, hello.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Newsfile.
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to your panel and your listeners.
Right. How do you react to the revelation that we are getting that it doesn't appear that, it does appear that in this contract, we are actually using we are going to use proceeds that will come out of oil that belongs to the Republic of Ghana to secure these funds?
Yeah, and I heard
Kweku
Bako talking about the commercial contract. I mean, let me just clarify that even without the loan, GNPC has the mandate to sell the crude oil that belongs to the state, but under very strict rules. So GNPC sells the crude oil that belongs to the state, and the buyer pays the money directly into the Petroleum Holding Fund. That will not change. That structure will not change because of this loan. Okay, so that's why last week I was very careful to distinguish between security. I mean, if Kweku has found anywhere that GMPC is using crude oil of the state as security, then I will support him. But the commercial contract is just a commercial sale between GMPC and Trafigura. And I'm saying that even without the loan, GMPC will still have gone ahead to sell crude oil on behalf of the state. The important thing to underline is that when the sale is made, all of those proceeds from the sale will go to the Bank of Ghana directly from the buyer. So it's not as if the sale will be made and the proceeds will be held by the buyer to pay off the loan. So we need to make that distinction very clear. If that were the case, then Kweku can say that we are using the government's crude oil.
Okay.
For the loan.
Let me put
what we're doing.
Let me put that question this way. Let me elicit this answer from you through this way. How do you interpret this? That the commercial offtake contract under which the crude oil entitlement of the Republic of Ghana from the Jubilee and possibly other offshore oil and gas fields shall be delivered to Trafigura per an agreed delivery schedule, that the commercial contract should extend until all amounts due under the repayment facility have been reimbursed. What's your interpretation of that?
So Trafigura is going to be the buyer of the crude oil. But Trafigura is not going to retain the proceeds. Once the crude oil is sold, those proceeds are going to be paid, and that is not obvious in the letter. But if you look at the structure, the proceeds of the sale will be paid directly to the Bank of Ghana, which is different from a situation where you owe somebody. You sell, crude oil to him, and then he takes the proceeds to pay off the loan. So that's a distinction that needs to be emphasized. Now, once the proceeds go to Bank of Ghana, Bank of Ghana then goes through the process of the PRMA, and there are very clear rules. So Bank of Ghana will then deliver the amount of money through a certain allocation structure. And through the budgeting process, GMPC will then get its allocation after the fact, so after the sale. So this transaction or the sale is not a direct, it's not as if Trafigura will have direct access to the proceeds of the sale. And that's a very important distinction.
That question again, and a very brief response to that so that we let you guys go. Why at all aren't you interested in getting Parliament to bless this for you?
As I said last week, we have to go to Parliament for budget, for the budgetary, process, and we do so every year. Okay, so we will go to Parliament as part of the government budget to ensure that the PRMA requirements are met. Because we will go to Parliament, when we go to Parliament, we talk about 3-year, 5-year programs. We don't just go to Parliament with 1-year program. We talk about 3-year, 5-year programs. And based on those programs, the allocations are made. So you'll find that, for example, the second allocation that is made to GMPC is based on a 3-yearly approval. The last time it was approved was 2013. For 2014 to 2016. So essentially, the minister has recommended to Parliament already that our second allocation, which we call the net CAPI, the 55% or 30% of net CAPI, that discussion was held last year, and the minister recommended that we get 30% of the proceeds, and that is what will subsist for a 3-year period.
Okay.
So the financiers are looking at the financiers are banking on those flows. They are not banking on the government's crude oil entitlement.
You're going to have a suit on your head.
Well, I think our legal people will be braced, to defend us, as much as possible in court.
Thank you,
So,
thank you very much for your time, Nana Ntoamwa. Yes, of the GNPC.
Samson.
Yeah, Kwame Ntoamwa. Thank you very much for your time. Yes, Nana.
Just quickly.
Yes.
I think I'm very happy with Mr. Ntoamwa's intervention. I think he's actually endorsed every single point that I have made. And clearly, if they went to Parliament with their budget, it has been approved, they should just tell us whether this particular transaction and the projects they say they will use the money for are included in the 2014 budget. They're not, and yet they're going ahead. And by the way, the loan agreement is such that once there's no grace period, so once disbursements are made, repayment starts.
Okay.
The other curious thing that I want to say before I go is that, GMPC has shown itself not to actually need to borrow any money at all, because all their programs are funded two ways. One through the allocation through the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, and one through a program that they have in every petroleum agreement with every partner, where all of their funding is pre-financed by the partner, and when the lifting is done, the proceeds from there, it first goes to equity financing, which is their share of the cost of the financing.
Okay, we'll find out how all of these things, you definitely will be arguing them in court, and we see how it goes. Nana Asante Bedieto there, and he is going to lead the charge for 3 MPs, that is Dr. Anthony Akotose, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, and Atachia, who is himself a lawyer also, who are going to the High Court to challenge the GMPC in respect of their apparent refusal to submit to parliamentary approval before they are able to take the $700 million loan that they are seeking to take from outside of the country. And when he said they are going to the High Court, and I asked him, High Court or Supreme Court, he said they are going to the High Court, you would understand that the very last case that came up in trying to define or interpret Article 1815 in the Supreme Court, the court concluded that because they have dealt with Balkan Energy, they had dealt with the Amidu, string of cases, and they had dealt with this case also, they thought that they had given sufficient interpretation to that particular provision of the Constitution, and subsequent processes ought to be taken to the High Court and not back to the Supreme Court, because there's nothing to interpret again. They have done their job. Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen. I understand that, sorry, you had a very quick point to make. We'll end with your point and then take a break at that.
It wasn't a quick point.
Yes, you were just beginning, I understand.
Yes,
I understand.
I was making the point. I really have some juicy points to make on GNPC, but I hope I'll get the opportunity another time. I was responding to Mr. Fifikwete that you cannot take money from the people for special purposes such as National Health Insurance Levy, and now we know that even second-tier pension, government collects them, and government cannot use them for the purpose, sitting in government's bosom. And then when people complain, you say, if you want a good life, you must pay for it. People are paying for it.
Government sitting in the MPRA's bosom.
No, that
in the temporary account of the Bank of Ghana.
No, the 270 arrears has not even come to the NPRA yet. It's with them. They should answer. Where is the money? They should answer.
You call it arrest?
You say?
They call it arrest.
Well, I don't know whether...
You have answered yourself. You said it's arrest.
When Agude did it, he went to jail.
But what
government is doing it, and the two of you should be sent to jail. Then we know that the law is even. So the point I'm making is that the government should deliver 8 sides of the contract. But just so I can recap quickly and finish with my point. I'm saying the government is trying to say that it is broke, and therefore it must tax more. That is not the solution, and I say it's not the solution because government has enjoyed a lot of inflow that previous administration did not enjoy. When I made a point about borrowing, I was not just mentioning borrowing. I'm saying that if you borrow, you inherit 9.5 billion public debt, and you lift it to 70 billion. You are not in a position to say that somehow I am broke, so the citizens are less broke, I'll take more money from them. Now, I've been asked the question, where is the waste? Why? Don't we read the Auditor General's report? All the incidents of wastage and corruption, they are there. Go for the Auditor General's report. You will see, I know that now politicians, we are becoming so used to corruption that when you discuss corruption as part of the problems we have and some of the reasons why government cannot finance its responsibilities, we say it is politics. Today, Mr. Fifi said it is primitive. Corruption has become fashionable, that we are no more allowed to discuss corruption when we are talking about protecting the public purse because it is a primitive discussion.
Auditor General's report and monies that are supposed to be retrieved. Mr. Setekwe also said clearly in the budget statement that starting 2015, they are going to assist the Auditor General, strengthen its capacity to be able to make the disallowances and
that promise has been
discharges, as well as whichever way to retrieve the money.
That promise has always been there. We've been promised every year that somehow we'll take steps to collect, to cut the waste and the corruption. It doesn't happen. I do not think anything new is going to happen. But the point I was seeking to make is that if the bowl is leaking, no matter how much taxes you impose to put in the bowl, it will drain and will be where we are now. The other thing, you see, the reason I am very uncomfortable with this taxing, everything has become just tax and spend, is that the private sector is suffering under energy difficulties. According to government's own statement, at the beginning of 2014, it thought the economy would expand by 8%. Mid-year, government came and said it will expand by 7.1%. When government came recently, the figures show that the economy will expand by 4.645%. Government made a mistake and quoted 7.3. I hope they correct it when we're doing the debate. Now,
so about the tax, this particular petroleum tax, supposing that the NPP had the opportunity in 2016, will you remove it? Will you repeal that law?
Which law?
The petroleum tax.
Look, when the NPP comes...
This is hypothetical.
Exactly, but I was even going to say to him that when the NPP comes, you need to look at all the taxes currently there, see all the
no, but you have said it's a bad tax, so you should be able to tell us that you remove it.
Listen, what I said was that government is saying it is 3%. In reality, it is more than 3%. It's because crude oil prices are down. I'm asking government to be honest about the tax so that people can prepare that when crude oil prices go up, the tax will also go up. Generally, I am opposed to tax. I believe in smaller governments. Taxing and putting money in the hands of government, the money goes largely into waste and public sector mismanagement. It's not the way to manage an economy. And you see, when you have an environment where the public sector and businesses are already in trouble, government, because it has been over-borrowing, interest rates are very high. Businesses cannot borrow. There is a this power outages. So businesses are not growing. That is why I gave those statistics about from 8, government's own projections, 8, they came to 7.1. Now we ended up with 4.6. What I'm saying is that if you go on to impose these taxes, you only had the private sector. Your corporate taxes will not perform. In the end, we'll be back to square one. So this approach would not work. And I think government must carry out the kind of reforms we need in the public sector and cut the waste and the corruption. It is not primitive to discuss corruption and waste. It can't be.
What are the alternatives available to a government that got less than as much as 75% of donor, funding that's supposed to support the budget? It didn't get that.
Why? Because there's corruption. The donors are telling them that unless you would deal with some of the governance issues, we will not disburse. That is part of it. Partly. Of course, they say we are middle-level country and therefore the money will not come. When you become a middle-income country, what it means is that your economy is in a position to generate a lot of revenue. And that is why all this revenue is coming to government. And because of the waste, we are not feeling. But if I can conclude on this last point. For the ordinary people out there, you see, when you say the budget, the person is an ice kenke seller. They put their ice kenke in the fridge. He's a barber. He goes to sit in his small kiosk with power, he barbers. he's a hairdresser. She uses power. For them, the economy is, after the budget statement has been read, am I now going to be able to get power so that my small job can happen and I can have my daily bread? For them, there's plenty talk about economy doesn't mean anything. And so when the government failed in the budget statement to announce new strategies, because previously the Energy Ministry had said that power supply from the West African gas pipeline has become unreliable, and therefore it's looking for alternative sources to get gas, so that would have solved part of the problem, the fuel part. We were all expecting that in the budget we would know what that alternative source is and how much it's going to cost us. The budget has been read, and for many people, what they were looking to hear was, when will the power outages stop? Since the debate, we have been pushing and pushing that if government understands the problems and thinks that this is the way to solve the problem, government should be able to give some idea when this power cuts will stop. Because
Mr. Tuforsing has just repeated what we have heard government say over the period.
What we have heard government say in the last...
how much you are going to get by mid-December, is it? How much you are going to get addition to the power, mix by January of next year. You haven't heard that?
I have heard that. I've read the budget very carefully. Look, the only fresh thing that is going to happen to our energy sector in the medium term is that Jubilee gas, associated gas from Jubilee fields, we are told is now ready. Now that is just 150 million metric cubic feet per day. That will just power the Takoradi plants. If government is confident that once that goes to Takoradi, we are safe, and that the remaining sources will be used to power the rest, and that the Dumso will stop, government will announce it. Because government is not confident, you listen to Atu's language, that the problem would come and help a bit. Government, the truth of what did he say? The truth of the matter is that the other interventions the minister mentioned in the budget, the 10 fields and the Sankofa Jinyame fields. Look, we are not going to get anything from these fields till 2017, 2018. In fact, for the Sankofa Jinyame fields, the development has not even started. That's the government's own announcement. So I asked myself, going forward, what is going to make this Dumso stop? I don't see those interventions. Jubilee fields gas alone cannot do it. And the ordinary people out there are looking to hear from government that this Dumso will stop this time. And until we get that, for many people, it's as though a budget has not been read, because it's my simple barbering business. That is my economy. That is how come I make money to feed my family. If government cannot tell me in its budget statement what the problems are, how much it will cost to fix it, and when the fixing would happen, then for many people out there, this budget is completely meaningless. But my concluding word to my colleagues here, they are an important part of government. Look, this borrowing into a basket that continues to leak, and people are very uncomfortable discussing public sector waste and corruption in government. We are never going to get anywhere with this kind of budget. That is my advice to government.
Thank you very much, Kuku Kwating. And on Sundays, the footballers meet at the park, the Omuto guys at their joints, the church folk share the grace, and friends and family come over to visit. But now, with MTN Sunday Special, your Sunday just got more special. For only 50 pesos, you can text and talk all day, every Sunday. So who is it that you love talking to? Is it your mom? Is it your dad? Is it your sister, brother, or that special somebody? Just keep talking all day, every Sunday with MTN Sunday Special. Send yes to MTN short code 5050 to sign up and say welcome to the new world. MTN everywhere you go. We take a quick break here. We'll be right back to continue the discussion. And more importantly also, the cocaine discussion, we will do that. And I've told you what is happening presently. We'll tell you more about what is going on in that front. Thank you very much for staying tuned. And those of you who are watching us live in London and elsewhere in Europe on your Sky channel, thank you very much. You're getting your messages loud and clear. Tonic Ghana, as I always say, they have solid, sleek, and sexy vehicles for you. They've got the classy, in the very latest luxury Jeeps. They also got the alluring Chryslers that you would want to take a test drive in, and then afterwards you would not need anyone to advise you what to do. They've also got the 8-speed automatic eco-diesel Grand Cherokee, which is another first in Ghana, and it's simply amazing. So why don't you call them? 0501 338 072 for a test drive. Thank you very much. Now, some of your messages that have come in, let me share them with you. This one is coming from David in Boku. He says that it looks like the budget did not mention employment opportunities. I was recruited by GES for almost 2 years without salary because of government ban on employment. In respect of that, someone wants me to ask you, ask the ministers, when will the embargo on public sector employment be lifted? You didn't identify yourself. And another one here, you didn't identify yourself. You say, why can't government allow private investors into energy production, or is it what? Into energy providing, and individuals who want to be using their services may do so. So you mean electricity. You want it as regular and efficient as you could. This one says, kindly ask Minister Toforson to tell Ghanaians about just one, you asked him to tell Ghanaians about just one innovative content in the budget, and all that he can talk about is debt and GDP. He should come again. Ghanaians are listening. Osum Tewia Francis in Odomase Krobo. This one says, coming from Parkwesi in Tema, he says that I'm deeply disappointed about Fifi Kwete. He's being hypocritical about issues in the budget. The simple truth is that the budget is yet another opportunity to impose hardship on the already burdened ordinary Ghanaian. Lloyd Sapong says, did I hear Fifi Kwete call our concerns of the overburdened taxes antiquated and Stone Age mentality? Tell him that if NDC has migrated from analog to digital approach to fixing our economic woes, it's worse than any snail pace. This one is coming from Leo in Adenta. He says, you introduce single spine without thinking through the consequences, without knowing how to finance it. After making propaganda with it during campaign, you now seeing the effects of putting out the single spine. Please spare us this rhetoric. Okay. We need what? Okay. Don't get that part very clearly. Then another one is coming from Eli in East Legon. He says, it's completely not acceptable that Kweku Bako would make certain disclosures on radio when the benefit to explain the document he purports to intercept has not been given to the GMP. Okay, so you sent this one before we called the GMPC. Thank you. This one says, oh, what is this GMPC guy in charge of strategy say? Does it matter whether our oil proceeds are used to repay the loans before or after the money is paid into Bank of Ghana? Key point is that GMPC has securitized our oil, cash oil entitlement to a loan that has not undergone scrutiny, and that is dangerous. Let common sense prevail. This is coming from Eddie on the Spintex Road in Accra. This one is coming from Otu in Ashaman. He says, good morning. I believe single spine was introduced to streamline salaries of public sector workers and to make things easier for government. If this is correct, then why are public workers' salaries taking all government has been able to rake in by way of revenues? Okay, thank you very much. I'll read a very final one here from Kojo in Hacho. He says something, please tell the two economists that investments can be debt financing and it shall remain debt in the financial report until paid. investment assets equals debt liability plus equity. So whether investment or debt, after borrowing, it will be added to national debt. Thanks for those messages. Okay, I'm being prompted to take a few more. Simon in Wale Wale says that the tax reliefs giving our local industries as captured by the 2012 budget statement is commendable, but our local industries cannot strive in the midst of high interest rates and unreliable source of power. Musa Abatawa in Kumasi says, Samson, I am entreating Ghanaians to welcome this transformational budget, especially with the introduction of the 17.5% tax on petroleum product that will increase our revenue generation to enhance the developmental infrastructure of the country. Fredia Ajuman says, from German South, says, Mr. Fifi Kwete has just said that to develop Ghana, Ghanaians have to sacrifice and pay more taxes. My worry is that for how long do we continue to sacrifice into private pockets with no attempt whatsoever to sanction wrongdoing beyond government irritating cosmetics? Okay. Park Ganiwe in Savligu says that the 2015 budget projects the establishment of a Ghana Exim Bank to complement the Youth Enterprise Support Fund. In effect, the YES Fund will grant loans to small-scale enterprises, whereas the Exim Bank will loan to large-scale companies. Minta in Koforidi, I'll take that last one, says the NDC has lost it all with their bad and incompetent economic policies. How do you increase tax on fuel, which can't benefit the poor, and the rural folk, and you reduce the price of gas, which can't benefit them, but rather make them worse off? Thank you very much for your messages. Now, just taking just a minute comment to wrap up all of this.
We have not spoken.
No, you don't have to.
We have not spoken.
No. Don't say we have not spoken. What do you mean by we have not spoken?
We had a second round.
No, what do you mean by we have not spoken? Don't worry. Take it easy.
I came here to discuss.
No, but we don't have to do it that way. That at all costs, everybody must speak.
We have a lot of comments to make on the issues that have been raised.
Right. You see,
so this thing about 1 minute comment, I don't get
it. The discussion of
all the way here to discuss budgets.
As a point. Phoebe, can we stop this?
No, we are not having a conversation. We are just saying that we have comment to make. So give us opportunity to make a comment.
Yes, I'll give you that. But allow me.
1 minute thing. After Kweku Kwatin had had almost 10 minutes to speak. Let's have opportunity to speak as well.
Didn't do 10 minutes.
The listeners and the viewers
didn't do 10 minutes. I'm checking the time, so don't do it that way.
The 1 minute.
Now let's start. Kweku, let's take your final reactions and any points that you want to make as far as the question of the budget and the GNPC matter is concerned.
Well,
let me see if I can take you to 2 minutes.
Yes, two quick things on the GNPC thing. You know, I am told reliably that the contract is about to be formally signed. The approval that the minister gave were based on the terms, the key terms, the proposals of the lender. One of which I've read already, which an explanation has come to, but I'm not convinced about the explanation. It sounds clever, but it's inadequate, insufficient. The second paragraph of the key terms, which I didn't read, and I would want to put that on record, said a 5-year commercial advance prepayment facility of 700 million secured by the product to be delivered as per the terms of the commercial contract. The amount shall be made available within 60 days of the signing date in one drawdown, and repayment shall be made semi-annually in 10 equal biannual installments. You see, I've been asking myself, based on the explanation that our friend from GNPC gave, why is it difficult to amend the first paragraph, the 5 point, the one that talks about crude oil entitlement of Republic of Ghana? Why can't we amend that and make it precise? Okay? Precise by targeting only the GNPC thing, which will come after, as we've been told, Parliament has approved.
Quickly, it is because that allocation goes to the National Oil Company.
Yes.
That National Oil oil company is not just GNPC. It's GNPC.
For now,
But it is only GNPC in default.
For now, it's GNPC.
It's only GNPC as we speak.
For now,
It's GNPC for now. GNPC. No, per the PRMA, it's GNPC as we speak.
You see, this contract, once it is signed, would last a period. If next year, government set up another oil company,
this government has no intention. This government, as we speak, has no intention. GNPC is the national oil company.
But I'm saying that the inclarity here, the confusion here, is quite avoidable.
Okay.
For purposes, because you cannot tell litigations and things that may arise.
Right.
Something could go wrong. Then the last point, in terms of good governance, why would an AG, or in this case, Deputy Attorney General, proceed to give an advice when he doesn't have the full complement of the transition documentation?
He's pointed out to you that this must have been his first reply.
Yeah,
you may not have been privy to what has happened between that period and now.
No. That's why I said,
but if there is, he should produce it.
That's why I said, even if there is, I am saying that you don't proceed on such a critical loan matter.
Okay,
to say I am giving, because
point made.
No, the point is that the advice was given.
Point is made. Thank you.
Yes.
Right, Fifi, let's hear you.
Yeah, first of all, let me just quickly clarify that if it is that we've had issues with what you call a reduction in growth, then again, it's so straightforward. You can appreciate why. If you have a situation where you've had constraint as far as energy supply is concerned, naturally that will affect growth. If you have difficulties that we had within external situation that's affected the country in terms of sharp drop that happened in cocoa and gold beginning of this year, cocoa is just rising, you clearly are going to have issues relating to growth. So if it is that temporarily we have growth issues for this year, we can appreciate. And that's why we are realistic enough to say that, listen, growth this year clearly would not be as high as it was last year. We expect that we'll see a medium-term gradual rise again. Now, the issues relating to energy again. I mean, a country that at the moment is having 12% growth in demand for energy, that is significant. I mean, 8 years of the MPP, I don't think you even cross 8% in terms of growth for energy. No, but it's important to appreciate that. I don't think you even cross 8% in terms of demand on an annual basis. No, it doesn't mean that we cannot make certain comparisons. Now, if you're having 12% annual growth as far as demand for energy is concerned, that's significant. Now, you should appreciate that, listen, you cannot simply, get what you call a power plant ready within a matter of 2 months or 6 months or even a year. So it means long-term planning must be done to do so. Now, if we had had, for example, between the period 2001 to 2008, a lot more effort to be able to add to generation for this country, we will not be having problems that we have today. At the time you were leaving power, between 2001 and 2008, not 1 megawatt of energy was added. It's true that you started processes like BUI and so on, but between that period, not 1 megawatt was added. And that's a fact. I'm saying we did not come on stream until when? 2011 or 2012? No, it doesn't matter. We are saying that for the period 2001 2008, there was not 1 megawatt of energy. Excuse me. No. But those were started before they came into office.
No, you see, we are all over this.
Let me make my point.
And the figures have always been put out.
Excuse me. Let me finish my point. You are already taking my minutes. Let me just finish.
If you are churning out,
I'm not churning out anything that is inaccurate.
You ought to be stopped in your tracks.
Truth or the matter.
No.
Between 2001 2008, it's on record. Not no 1 megawatt of. I'm not saying no investment. I said not 1 megawatt of energy was added. Anyway, the fact of the matter is this: that we clearly, between 2009 to now, have made effort to be able to add to the generation. Now, Atu clearly mentioned, for example, that we are almost having the Jubilee gas, the turbo gas coming on stream. That's going to be adding 500 megawatts to energy. We're talking about Senate's power project, which is likely to be ready very soon. We'll be adding 110 megawatts.
All those things began long before you came.
We are talking about expansion projects, phases that are being added to it. That is effort being made.
They were there.
Stop wasn't there. I have very few minutes to finish. Let me just finish my point.
Just a while ago, you were disrupting him.
I didn't disrupt him. Samson, please.
Okay, now let's we can move on now.
No, let me just finish. The finishing is simple.
Okay.
Now, Kweku asked, how come is it that we brought taxes at the time where crude oil are down? If it were not for that, it would have gone up higher. Kweku, that's all about timing being of the essence. A smart leadership knows how to time the application of taxes. Right. So, of course, we came in at a good moment because we know clearly that moment would have actually inured to the good of the country. But going forward, I mean, let's not get what I said earlier wrong at all. Yeah, I'm just finishing now. Let's not get what I said earlier wrong at all. I did not in any way say people of Ghana are being antiquated. What I said is that political, what you call talk, relating to taxation, debt is wrong, especially coming from people who should be informed. It's basically continuing to do what we used to do in the Stone Age, and you must get that behind.
Okay, it's good you have attempted to clarify that because you're taking a lot of flack as far as the text messages are concerned on that one.
Yeah, they didn't hear me.
I just decided to exercise my discretion that text messages that are obviously insulting will not be read. Sorry. Now, 1 minute. Keep your business and family connected with MTN. Easy Phone and Easy Phone Plus. Enjoy the amazing smart functions of a wireless landline plus free talk time, SMS, and amazing call functions at a fixed affordable monthly fee. All you need is an MTN SIM and you are on your way to enjoying smarter connections with your family and business. Visit mtnbusiness.com.gh or call 1811. For more information. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome to the new world of business. MTN everywhere you go. Thank you very much.